Now that you know about the housing problems in Hong Kong, it is time for us to express our personal opinion. I believe that subdivided flats should not be allowed, even though they house more people. They are not safe enough in case of emergencies. For example, fire hazard. There has been lots of there has been issues with these kinds of housing, and they are also portrayed in the media as very dangerous. Government should make more housing more affordable for those that are under the poverty line, and as for the environmental concerns, the government needs to find a balance between providing more housing and reclamation. Although reclamation is a good way to expand the land, it is very harmful to the environment. And I think that reclamation should only be used as a last resort. For example, the Pearl Harbor used to be way bigger than it is now, and that is because of reclamation. Another alternative is to expand upwards, so making the buildings taller and house more people. Developing new towns with more housing and buildings for public use is also a good alternative in the rural areas, or the government can also increase the capacity of people in the rural urban fringe. We know that urban sprawl is happening and should be occurring more in these kinds of times, and the priority is to increase the quality of life for those who live in subdivided flats by making housing more affordable or by providing them a larger and more safer area for living. It is important to give shelter to those who cannot as soon as possible, whereas leisure developments are not as urgent as this issue because countless people in Hong Kong are suffering for this reason. A common cultural perspective in Hong Kong is that subdivided flats, or the Chinese words that you're seeing on the screen, literally means a room cut into smaller rooms, and they are portrayed as only having room to put one bed, and the facilities are shared by neighbors. So they are also called coffin homes. Most Hong Kong people think that the priority is after earning money is to buy a house because the prices of housing in Hong Kong only go up. And owning more than one house is considered a privilege and a symbol of wealth and ability to earn money. Most of the housing owned by landlords, they will increase the rent as their will, and people have no choice but to continue renting unless there's another cheaper alternative, which most of the time there isn't. This is inequality because the landlords can increase the rent while people have no choice. So the morality of the landlord should be that they should not increase the rent, or even they should maybe decrease the rent if they can afford it during these times, because lots of people are losing their jobs, so they have a decrease in income. People around the world, they know that Hong Kong housing is really expensive. However, they may not relate as in other places. For example, more in the Western countries, people live in a full house, so they may not know the fact that Hong Kong people are living in apartment flats instead of houses, and also more people are living in subdivided flats. At the same time, Hong Kong people also think that the housing that other people live in is very spacious, for the fact that there are not much private houses in Hong Kong, and if they are most people think that they are considered a luxury, where the people who live there, they value living environments more than convenience, so they are almost always located at relatively rural areas.
Nowadays, it is known that Hong Kong people are wasting a lot of resources in a day. Those people who have a rich and high living standard in Hong Kong, who can fulfill all demands and needs. They shouldn't be wasting any resources because most of the resources are scarce. On the other hand, there are also people who live in poor living standards, although they have a place to live, but a lot of things could be easily damaged. For example, water leaking and poor ventilation. Climate change will also affect the poor or homeless people because it threatens the cleanness of the air, depletes the water sources, and limits food supply. I think that the government should provide programs that could fix things for free to make everyone's life easier and smoother. As people migrate to Hong Kong for working or other purposes, and also Hong Kong's population is gradually increasing every day, prices of houses are increasing. Especially in 2020, there is COVID all around us and people are getting less and less income, or people are losing their jobs. So Hong Kong people might think that the house is too expensive and don't have the ability to afford the house.
I believe that the way government distribute their public homes is not effective. Street sleepers are getting higher and higher every year. If street sleepers are getting higher and higher, not only more people become homeless, businesses will also be affected as they have to provide their stores for street sleepers to sleep. Like McDonald's, for example, in Hong Kong. If stores are not open, street sleepers have nowhere to go. But if the stores are opened, then it will affect their business. The government should also reconsider to make suburban flats legal, so people can wait for their turn for a public flat without stressing on becoming homeless. And also, the government decided to create more land by a plan called Tomorrow Lam Tao, and to me, it's not very practical. About 70% of land in Hong Kong is natural, but it cannot be used because it's not suitable for creating buildings because of the land's relief. But land reclamation is bad for the environment. Therefore, subdivided flats are the only choice for poor residents to live on.
Hong Kong is much overpopulated compared to other cities considering the area of it, which makes flats very expensive, and many jobs have very low income, making a lot of people homeless. I agree with Marcus that suburban flats should be legal since most people cannot even afford to wait for a public flat to be open. The reclamation of land from the ocean has been long used in mountainous Hong Kong to expand the limited supply of usable land with a total of around 60 square kilometers of land created by 1996. The government is trying to expand usable land but is not efficient because the rate of population growth is faster than the reclamation of land. However, subdivided flats is not a long-term solution since the houses would just get smaller and smaller and the living standard would decrease even more for people living in subdivided flats. The long-term solution is to decrease the population in Hong Kong, but unfortunately that is nearly impossible since Hong Kong is very rich and people around the globe who want to make a fortune will consider going to Hong Kong. The population will only increase during the following years and not decrease.
People living in poverty often also suffer from poor living standards, which means they may have to live in subdivided flats or even sleep in the streets. For many Hong Kongers, it is a top priority to buy a house. It is well known in Hong Kong that the price of a place to live is very expensive due to having such high population density in a small area. People who might have enough money to buy a place to live in other countries might not be able to do so in Hong Kong. Poor living standards also affect the health of people who live in poverty. They might not get 3 meals a day, or even a steady supply of clean water. It should be a priority of the government to improve the lives of these people. The amount of people who don't have a place to live will only increase, and this is a problem the government needs to work to solve. This is the final podcast of the series. We hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and share this video, and thank you very much for watching.